Up bright and early that day. I was young then, feeling awful and out, mother hanging out of the window in her nightdress, weeping and waving. Nice, fresh morning, bright too early as so often, feeling really awful, very violent. The sky would soon darken and rain fall and go on, falling all day till evening, then blue and sun again a second, then night. Feeling all this, how violent and the kind of day, I stopped and turned, so back with bowed head on the lookout for a snail, slug, or worm. Great love in my heart, too, for all things, still and rooted, bushes, boulders, and the like, too numerous to mention, even the flowers of the field, not for the world, when in my right senses would I ever touch one to pluck it, but whereas a bird now, or a butterfly fluttering about and getting in my way, all moving, things getting in my path, a slug now getting under my feet, no mercy. Oh, not that I'd go out of my way to get at them, no, at a distance often they seem still, then a moment later they were upon me. Birds with my piercing sight I've seen flying so high, so far, that they seemed at rest, then the next minute they were all about me. Crows have done this, ducks are perhaps the worst, to be suddenly stamping and stumbling in the midst of ducks or hens, any class of poultry. Few things are worse, nor will I go out of my way to avoid such things when avoidable. No, I simply will not go out of my way, though I have never in my life been on my way anywhere, but simply on my way. And in this way I've gone through great thickets, bleeding, and deep into bogs, water, too, even the sea in some moods, and been carried out of my course or driven back so as not to drown. And that is perhaps how I shall die at last if they don't catch me. I mean, drowned or in fire, yes. Perhaps that's how I shall do it at last, walking furious headlong into fire and dying burnt to bits. Then I raised my eyes and saw my mother still in the window waving me back, or on, I don't know, or just waving in sad, helpless love, and I heard faintly her cries. The window frame was green, pale, the house wall grey, and my mother white and so thin I could see past her, piercing sight I had then into the dark of the room, and in all that full the not long risen sun and all, small because of the distance, very pretty, really, the whole thing. I remember it, the old grey, and then the thin green surround and the thin white against the dark. If only she could have been still and let me look at it all. No, for once I wanted to stand and look at something I couldn't with her there, waving and fluttering and swaying in and out of the window as though she were doing exercises, and for all I know she may have been not bothering about me at all. No, tenacity of purpose, that was another thing I didn't like in her. One week it would be exercises, and the next prayers and Bible reading, and the next gardening, and the next playing the piano and singing. That was awful, and then just lying about and resting, always changing. Not that it mattered to me, I was always out. But let me get on now with the day I've hit on to begin with. Well, any other would have done as well, yes. On with it and out of my way and on to another. Enough of my mother for the moment. Well, then, for a time, all well. No trouble. No birds at me. Nothing across my path, except at a great distance a white horse followed by a boy, or it might have been a small man or woman. This is the only completely white horse I remember, what I believe the Germans call a schimmel. Oh, I was very quick as a boy and picked up a lot of hard knowledge. Schimmel, nice word for an English speaker. The sun was full upon it as shortly before upon my mother, and it seemed to have a red band or stripe running down its side. I thought perhaps a belly band, perhaps the horse was going somewhere to be harnessed to a trap or such like. It crossed my path a long way off, then vanished behind greenery, I suppose. All I noticed was the sudden appearance of the horse and his appearance. It was bright white with the sun on it. I'd never seen such a horse, though often heard of them, and never saw another. White, I must say, has always affected me strongly. All white things, sheets, walls, and so on, even flowers, and then just white, the thought of white without more. But let me get on with this day and get it over. All well, then, for a time. Just the violence, and then this white horse, when suddenly I flew into a most savage rage, really blinding. Now, why this sudden rage, I really don't know. These sudden rages, they made my life a misery. Oh, many other things, too, did this. My sore throat, for example. I have never known what it is to be without a sore throat, but the rages were the worst, like a great wind suddenly rising in me, and I can't describe. It wasn't the violence getting worse in any case, nothing to do with that. Some days I'd be feeling violent all day and never have a rage. Other days quite quiet for me and have 4 or 5. No, there's no accounting for it. There's no accounting for anything with a mind like the one I always had, always on the alert against itself. Well, I'll come back on this perhaps when I feel less weak. There was a time I tried to get relief by beating my head against something, but I gave it up. The best thing I found was to start running. Perhaps I should mention here I was a very slow walker. I didn't dally or loiter in any way, just walked very slowly, little short steps, and the feet very slow through the air. On the other hand, I must have been quite one of the fastest runners the world has ever seen over a short distance, 5 or 10 yards in a second. I was there, but I couldn't go on at that speed. Oh, not for breathlessness. It was mental. All is mental. Figments. Now, the jog trot, on the other hand, I could no more do that than I could fly. No, with me all was slow, and then these flashes or gushes, vent the pent. Well, that was one of those things I used to say over and over as I went along, vent the pent, vent the pent. Fortunately, my father died when I was a boy, otherwise I might have been a professor. He had set his heart on it. Oh, a very fair scholar I was, too, no thought, but a great memory. One day I told him about Milton's cosmology. Way up in the mountains we were resting against a huge rock looking out to sea. That impressed him greatly. Love, too, often in my thoughts when a boy, but not a great deal compared to other boys. It kept me awake, I found. Never loved anyone, I think. I'd remember. Except in my dreams, and there it was animals, dream animals, nothing like what you see walking about the country. I couldn't describe them, lovely creatures they were, white mostly. In a way, perhaps it's a pity. A good woman might have been the making of me. I might be sprawling in the sun now, sucking my pipe and patting the bottoms of the 3rd generation, looked up to and respected, wondering what there was for dinner instead of stravaiging the same old roads in all weathers. I was never much of a one for new ground. No, I regret nothing. All I regret's having been born. Dying is such a long, tiresome business, I always found. But look, let me get on now from where I left off. The white horse and then the rage. No connection, I suppose. That's why I go on with all this. I don't know. Someday I must end. Why not now? But these are thoughts, not mine, no matter. Shame upon me. Now I'm old and weak, and pain and weakness murmur why, and pause. And the old thoughts well up in me and over into my voice. The old thoughts born with me and grown with me and kept under. And there's another. No, back to that far day, any far day, and from the dim, granted ground to its things and sky, the eyes raised and back again, raised again and back again, and the feet going nowhere, only somehow home. In the morning, out from home, and in the evening, back home again, and the sound of my voice all day long, muttering the same old things I don't listen to, not even mine it was at the end of the day, like a marmoset sitting on my shoulder with his bushy tail, keeping me company. All this talking, very low and hoarse. Well, no wonder I had a sore throat. Perhaps I should mention here that I never talked to anyone. I think my father was the last one I talked to. My mother was the same, never talked, never answered since my father died. I asked her for the money. I can't go back on that now. Those must have been my last words to her. Sometimes she cried out at me or implored, but never long, just a few cries, and if I looked up, the poor old thin lips pressed tight together and the body turned away, and just the corner of the eyes on me, but it was rare. Sometimes in the night I heard her talking to herself, I suppose, or praying out loud, or reading out loud, or reciting her hymns, poor woman. Well, after the horse and rage, I don't know, just on. Then I suppose the slow turn, wheeling more and more to the one or other hand, till facing home, then home. My father and mother, I think they're probably in paradise. They were so good. Let me go to hell, that's all I ask, and go on cursing them there, and them look down and hear me. That might take some of the shine off their bliss. Yes, I believe all their blather about the life to come. It cheers me up. And unhappiness like mine is no annihilating that. I was mad, of course, and still am, but harmless. I passed for harmless, that's a good one. Oh, not, of course, that I was really mad, just strange, a little strange, and with every passing year a little stranger. There can be few stranger creatures going about than me at the present day. My father, did I kill him too, as well as my mother? Well, perhaps in a way I did, but I can't go into that now, much too old and weak. The questions float up as I go along and leave me very confused. Breaking up I am in twos. They often came, one hard on the other, thus. How shall I go on another day? And then, well, how did I ever go on another day? Or did I kill my father, and then did I ever kill anyone? That kind of way, to the general from the particular, I suppose you might say. Question and answer, too, in a way, very adling. I strive with them as best I can, quickening my step when they come on, tossing my head from side to side and up and down, staring agonizedly at this and that, increasing my murmur to a scream. Well, these are helps, but they shouldn't be necessary. Something's wrong here. If it was the end, I wouldn't so much mind, but how often I have said in my life before some new awful thing, it is the end, and it was not the end, and yet the end cannot be far off now. I shall fall as I go along and stay down or curl up for the night as usual among the rocks, and before morning be gone. Oh, I know. I too shall cease and be as when I was not yet, only all over instead of in store. That makes me happy. Often now my murmur falters and dies, and I weep for happiness as I go along, and for love of this old earth that has carried me so long, and whose uncomplainingness will soon be mine. Just under the surface I shall be altogether at first, then separate and drift through all the earth, and perhaps in the end through a cliff into the sea, something of me. A ton of worms in an acre. Oh, that's a wonderful thought. A ton of worms. I believe it. Where did I get it, from a dream, or a book read in a nook when a boy, or a word overheard as I went along, or in me all along and kept under till it could give me joy? These are the kind of horrid thoughts I have to contend with in the way I've said. Now, is there nothing to add to this day with the white horse and white mother in the window before I get on to some other day at a later time? Nothing to add before I move on in time, skipping hundreds and even thousands of days? Well, in a way I couldn't at the time, but had to get through somehow until I came to the one I'm coming to now. No, nothing. All is gone but mother in the window, the violins, rage and rain. So on to this second day and get it over and out of the way and on to the next. What happens now is I was set on and pursued by a family or tribe. I do not know of stoats. The most extraordinary thing, I think they were stoats. Indeed, if I may say so, I think I was fortunate to get off with my life. Strange expression, it doesn't sound right somehow. But anyone else would have been bitten and bled to death, perhaps sucked white like a rabbit. There's that word, white, again. Why, no, I could never think, but if I could have and then had, I would just have lain down and let myself be destroyed as the rabbit does. But let me start, as always, with the morning and the going out. When a day comes back, whatever the reason, then it's morning and it's evening, too, are there, though in themselves quite unremarkable. The going out and coming home, there's a remarkable thing, I find. So, up then in the grey of dawn, very weak and shaky after an atrocious night, little dreaming what lay in store, out and off. What time of year? I really don't know. Does it matter? Not wet, really, but dripping, everything dripping. The day might rise, did it? No, drip. Drip all day long, no sun, no change of light. Dim all day and still, not a breath till night, then black and a little wind. I saw some stars on my way home. My stick, of course, by a merciful providence. I shall not say this again. When not mentioned, my stick is in my hand as I go along, but not my long coat, but just my jacket. I could never bear the long coat flapping about my legs. Or rather, one day suddenly I turned against it, a sudden violent dislike. Often when dressed to go, I would take it out and put it on, then stand in the middle of the room unable to move until at last I could take it off and put it back on its hanger in the cupboard. But I was hardly down the stairs and out into the air when the stick fell from my hand, and I just sank to my knees to the ground and then forward on my face, a most extraordinary thing, and then after a little over on my back. I could never lie on my face for any length of time, much as I loved it. It made me feel sick, and lay there half an hour perhaps, with my arms along my sides and the palms of my hands against the pebbles and my eyes wide open, straying over the sky. Now, was this my first experience of this kind? That is the question that immediately assails one. Well, falls I had had in plenty of the kind, after which, unless a limb broke, and you pick yourself up and go on, cursing God and man, very different from this. With so much life gone from knowledge, how know when all began, all the variants of the one, that one by one their venom staling follow upon one another all life long till you succumb. So, in some way, even olden things each time are first things, no two breaths the same, all are going over and over, and all once and never more. But let me get up now and on and get this awful day over and on to the next. But what is the sense of going on with all this? There is none. Day after unremembered day, till my mother's death, then in a new place in old, until my own. And when I come to this night here among the rocks with my 2 books and the strong starlight, it will have passed from me, and the day that went before, my 2 books, the little and the big, all past and gone, or perhaps just moments here and there still, this little sound. Gather up my things and go back into my hole, so bygone they can be told. Over, over, there is a soft place in my heart for all that is over. No, for the being over. I love the word. Words have been my only loves, not many. But for those awful fidgets I always had, I would have lived my life in a big, empty, echoing room with a big old pendulum clock, just listening and dozing, the case open so that I could watch the swinging, moving my eyes to and from, and the lead weights dangling lower and lower till I got up out of my chair and wound them up again once a week. The third day was the look I got from the roadman. Suddenly I see that now. A ragged old brute bent double down in the ditch, leaning on his spade or whatever it was, and leering round and up at me from under the brim of his slouch, the red mouth. How is it, I wonder, I saw him at all? That's more like it. The day I saw the look I got from Belf, I went in terror of him as a child. Now he's dead, and I resemble him. But let us get on and leave these old scenes and come to these and my reward. Then it will not be as now, day after day, out, on, round, back, in, like leaves turning or torn out and thrown crumbled away, but a long unbroken time without before or after, light or dark, from or towards or at. The old half-knowledge of when and where gone and of what, but kinds of things still all at once, all going until nothing. There was never anything, never can be, life and death, all nothing, that kind of thing, only a voice, dreaming and droning on, all around, with that something, the voice that once was in your mouth. Well, once out on the road and free of the property, what then? I really don't know. The next thing I was up on the bracken, lashing about with my stick, making the drops fly and cursing. Filthy language, the same words over and over again. I hope nobody heard me. Throat very bad. To swallow was torment, and something wrong with an ear. I kept poking at it without relief. Old wax, perhaps, pressing against the drum. Extraordinary still over the land, and in me too, all quite still. A coincidence? Why the curses were pouring out of me, I don't know. No, that's a foolish thing to say. And the lashing about with the stick, what possessed me, mild and weak, to be doing that as I struggled along? Is it the stoats now? No. First I just sink down again and disappear in the ferns up to my waist the well as I went along. Harsh things, these great ferns, like starched, very woody, terrible stalks, take the skin off your legs through your trousers, and then the holes they hide break your leg if you're not careful. Awful English, this. Fall and vanish from view. You could lie there for weeks and no one hear you. I often thought of that up in the mountains. No, that's a foolish thing to say. Just went on, my body doing its best without me.